So Pat found this article in the news, and once again, carnivore is being presented as dangerous for our health. So I wanted to take a look at this because, well, honestly, it's just shocking to me how often carnivore is presented as something that's going to harm us. The article, so in the article, the carnivore diet is the oh my goodness, can't speak today. The carnivore diet is one of many trendy eating fads. And we've been treated to a cautionary tale. So this is the first paragraph. So it's obviously not a news article. That's where okay. Somehow it showed up when he was looking for health news. I want to start there because this kind of article should not show up when we're looking for news. But now, this is two sentences in, and you can already tell that there's a certain stance towards carnivore that this author has. And he says this is a trendy eating fad that causes cholesterol to leak out of people's bodies. Bonus word. Have you ever had cholesterol leak out of your body while you were doing carnivore? I want to start there because I'm only 11 months in. Maybe I haven't been doing it long enough. I want to ask. I've heard so many people talk about being 10, 12 years in. Haven't heard anyone say this, but I'm just wondering for you guys, have any of you, if you've had this happen, please put it in the comments because I need to know if this is something that's actually happening. Now, I found it intriguing when it said that the carnivore diet, also known as keto, because this tells me that the author didn't even take the time to fully research the diet that he was planning to crap all over today. This is obviously an opinion piece, not even an article. And first of all, carnivores aren't eating vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, or legumes like the people who do keto can actually do. There's no fruit, right? There's like they're not eating those things. And by the way, it's not because you can eat all the fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and legumes, low glycemic ones. It's not because you can eat all of those things that means that you will eat all of those things. I did carnivore sorry, I did keto for 3 years, eating only meat, fish, poultry, eggs, avocado, olives, and a salad every other week. It actually worked out that I was having 2 times a week veg with my occasional salad, making it 3 times once in a while. So that very little bit of vegetation that I was eating still meant that I was doing keto, not carnivore. The point that I'm making here is that if you're carnivore, you're not eating vegetation. So, in my opinion, carnivore is actually a subset of keto, not the same as keto, the same way that keto is a subset of low carb and not just the same as low carb. They are different. That's why they have different names. And, also known as, I just want to back up a minute. Like if I say, like for example, this is a mug. It's also known as a cup, and in French it's known as a tasse. But this is referring to the same thing. That has implications for what you're gonna like you what you call it keto. Calling it keto will let people think they can actually have vegetation when they're doing carnivore. And again, you're mixing definitions. Now, I will say that the author goes on to state that carnivore The carnivore diet will force you into ketosis. It's going to force you in. The implications for your body, it's like your body wants to be in ketosis, and he's talking about it like your body doesn't want it, right? The implication is that it's making your body do this thing that it absolutely doesn't want to do. But I want you to listen to this.
You can take a newborn baby and the baby can breastfeed or bottle feed. And then within an hour, the baby is in a deeper state of ketosis than an adult would be after fasting for a full day. I mean, it really, that baby will be at 2 millimolar ketones in an hour. And an adult, and for me, if I want to get to 2 million, I got to fast for like 36 hours to get to that point. And I mean, so if there's any natural state, kind of back to our conversation a moment ago, it is clearly that a natural state is a state of ketosis. We are such totally unique creatures where we are the only land-based mammals born obese and the only animal who has a brain that is larger than the birth canal, much to mother's chagrin. But that means we have these very big, hungry brains and all of this chubby, adorable baby fat that is just producing ketones like gangbusters to fuel the brain growth. And if you have a baby that is born premature and lacks sufficient adipose tissue, it is much more likely that they're going to develop neurological disorders.
Actually, Wellness Warrior, I just I want to point out that the Dr. Bikman is helping us to see that we're born in this state of ketosis. Our body wants to be in ketosis. Like this, we 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 thrive in a ketogenic state. We are the ones, so us adults, we're the ones that pull babies out of their ketogenic state by feeding them fruit and cereal as their first solid foods. We don't give them meat and fat, what their body would actually naturally be looking for. We give them fruit and cereal and vegetables. And we kind of hold off on the meats. I don't know why. But those are the instructions I was given 20 odd years ago when my daughter was born. And now, today, I understand that it was a mistake. My point is, our bodies are delighted to be back to a ketogenic state. It's the reason that most people feel energized and they drop a bunch of weight when they they get back into their ketogenic state. But can you believe that that's not even the reason that I wanted to talk about this article today? We still haven't reached that yet. The reason that I want to talk about this article is because there's a huge difference between our body leaking cholesterol and us having xanthelasma. If you knew how many times I had to say that word to figure it out. Xanthelasma. Now, I had this image in my head of this poor man just having oil leaking out of his body, and like the way that that sentence is written. But in fact, what's happening is he had yellowish nodules on his palms, soles, and elbows. Um, can I point out that xanthomas, which is what those things are, look more like flat skin tags, which is what you can see on this person's eye, on the top and under the bottom corner and over on the side too. Like that's what that is. It's more typical for people to have them around their eyes. And although the author made it sound like this man was like leaking oil from everywhere, you kind of see in this part of the article, which was really far down, that first of all, it's linking to the actual JAMA article. So that's Journal of American Medical Association, I believe. Um, I went to the article, and what he has written in this complete article that he wrote is basically a rewrite of the abstract of the JAMA article. And the JAMA article is a case study of this man. Now, I don't have access to the full article. I saw the same abstract that he saw, and when I reread the article, I realized he just took the abstract and turned it into, and I keep calling it an article. It's an opinion piece. And it's not even a good one. It's full of run-on sentences. I mean, this was horrific to read, by the way. But what's kind of annoying to me is yellow nodules, hands, soles. I know that I've seen those on people's faces before, right? I'm sure that you guys might have seen this on people before. But I want to just, there's no actual oil coming out of this person's skin, right? Not beyond normal, not beyond what you and I live of, like, if you get a little, if you do a lot of exercise or something, yes, of course, it's normal to have some oil on the outside of your body. That's normal. But it's not gushing like the way that the article starts off making it sound. The cholesterol looks like that, like a flat skin tag. So, can I point out, Wellness Warrior, that picture, when I looked it up, so that xanthoma made me realize how many people I've actually known and know to this day who have xanthomas around the outside of their eye and in the corners of their eye and on their eyelid. I know people today who have those. I just didn't know what they were called. And most of them had something very interesting in common. I'm going to come back to in a moment. Now, I've also known people who've had them on their elbows and their knees. I've seen that too, less frequently. Those people also had something interesting in common that I can pinpoint in my mind. My question is, did carnivore cause those issues? Because he was reportedly 8 months carnivore prior to the xanthomas on his hands, his elbows, and soles of his feet. Now, they describe his diet, and they said that he was having 6 to 9 pounds of cheese, butter, additional fat, and ground and and hamburger. So all of that combined, 6 to 9 pounds. I'm assuming they mean per day. They don't say what else he's eating. They don't say if he's eating anything else. So now I'm because they say he lost weight, had increased energy, and improved mental clarity. I'm kind of back and forth. Like the abstract that this piece is based on doesn't clarify why he started carnivore. And I think that's a huge, important piece of the puzzle that we're not given. So I'm skeptical on some level that the diet caused the xanthulama for a few reasons. First of all, I wonder, he was definitely trying to do carnivore with what he says he was eating, but was he actually doing carnivore? With the way that this man described what his diet, did he have more, like, if you read the actual full article, so the JAMA article, do they talk about him eating other things? And maybe this person paid for that article. I didn't buy the article, so I don't know if in the actual article they say something else. But if he was eating other carbohydrate things, then it could explain how he was able to eat 6 to 9 pounds of high fat food and get it in. The reason I'm skeptical about that part, and I'm starting there, when I was doing keto, I was eating vegetables and pork belly as a meal. It was one of my meals. Absolutely, I could eat a slice of pork belly, so and they come sliced from Costco, so they're all about the same size. They're pre-sliced. I was able to eat a full slice of pork belly and vegetables and eat it. When I did carnivore, I had one slice of pork belly as a meal and could not eat it. I couldn't get down. I am not able on carnivore to eat one full slice of pork belly like I was able to do back when I was eating carbohydrates. That's the first thing that makes me wonder if this person was actually doing carnivore when their xanthomas might have either showed up or gotten worse. So this is the other problem that I have, is that they don't tell us whether or not he had any around his eyes to begin with. So maybe they were already there and we just weren't told that they were around the eyes, and they focus on the fact that, and he might have focused on the fact that, oh my gosh, they're on my hands and feet and knee and elbows. Also, xanthomas on your hands and feet and elbows are much more intense looking than the ones around your eyes. Again, could explain why he was more concerned about them. Sometimes they're on top of each other. I've seen some pictures that were much more intense. I didn't put them here because it's not the point that I'm making. This is about the xanthoma specifically. So, the other issue that I have with saying that his diet caused the xanthulama that he ended up being diagnosed with is that people with xanthulama diagnosis also typically have diagnoses of diabetes, thyroid issues, obesity, and other metabolic issues. So, being overweight is a metabolic issue, and xanthulama is associated with metabolic issues. He was already, so there's a question mark. Would he have already been on the path to these xanthelasmas showing themselves, and it just happened to happen during this 8 months period of time when he was doing when he was trying to do carnivore? So the people that I knew who had the xanthelasmas around their eyes were all obese, are all obese. I still know a few of them that they have it. They're obese. Now, the people that I know that have them on their elbows and knees have eczema, like intense eczema. So again, there's like this thing for me that I'm like, I didn't know what they were called, but I find it interesting. The focus of the original article or the original case study was the hands and elbows, right? But we don't have all the data about this person's history in just the abstract. I find it very interesting that that article, which is focusing on what's going on with his hands, elbows, and knees, goes straight away to, hey, he changed his diet, and that must be the reason that his xanthomas started to develop on his hands and elbows. And when his diet is an 8 month thing, and he'd been eating probably like normal diet, standard diet before that for 40 years. So we have a tendency to focus our attention on the things that are diet related when it's convenient. But then eating sugar, for example, is never pointed at as a reason that you have diabetes. No, no, that's never. It's always something to do with fat. So even though it's a sugar issue, like so diabetes, too much sugar in your blood, but somehow it was the fat we were eating. So I just wanted to point that out as one of the reasons that I'm not so much. I'm skeptical. That was my point one of why I was skeptical that it could be the diet that's causing this problem. But there's more, wellness warrior. Um, so Dr. Berry has also helped me to just not be afraid of cholesterol. He pointed out that our body makes 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol every single day because we need it. If we eat a little, sure, our body will make a little less because we ate some. But if we don't eat enough, our body makes it. Every cell in our body is partially built with cholesterol. Hormones are partially built with cholesterol. There's so much that happens in our body that relies, like the mechanism to to firing of like there's so much. There's just so much. So our body has ways to increase cholesterol. So if it goes too low, we have multiple ways of increasing the amount of cholesterol in our body to make sure that we have enough cholesterol. This is what Dr. Berry has taught. And he also taught that low cholesterol is more dangerous than high cholesterol. Apparently, we need cholesterol, Wellness Warrior. And this is something that hormonally, women, once we get into our later years, we actually end up struggling a lot with. And what I learned is apparently some of this hot flash symptoms and all the things that are happening that we can't stand are happening because we don't have enough cholesterol, we don't have enough iodine. Like all there's a lot of things that we're not encouraged to get enough of that cause our bodies to struggle. Men as well. So I can't just say women. Men also need cholesterol. Men also need iodine. But there's so many things that we struggle with because we're not encouraged to get enough of them, because we're cautioned away from eating the things that would give them to us. Because um, articles like this in the JAMA, so the JAMA research article, this case study encourages us to be afraid of something that we shouldn't be afraid of. Natural fat, animal source fat, keeping in mind that we are born into the world into a ketogenic state. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And yet what we're this is what the research is focusing its attention on. That's how I'm going to word that. This is what this research is focusing on. And then that research turns around and it makes a scenario where the people who write about this stuff in the news, that wasn't a news article, but even the real news sources come at it from this perspective because research is coming at it from this perspective. I want to talk about Rose. I interviewed her back in November of 2023, and she reminded me about the thing called volume eaters. You know, those people who can just, in one sitting, take in quite a large, as a matter of fact, I will call it huge amount of food. And I wanted to acknowledge the possibility. So, another reason that this man might have been able to eat 6 to 9 pounds of food. And I'm calling it food, even though it was cheese and butter and other fat sources along with his meat. I'm calling it food because it's better than eating fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds that are bringing in a bunch of toxins and sugar and damaging our bodies worse than real food: meat, fish, poultry, eggs, these animal sourced foods. But the thing that Rose helped me to understand is that even though I, not being a volume eater, get a huge signal when I eat pork belly, when I eat pork chops, when I eat ham or eggs or any kind of meat, when I eat, even when I eat fish, I get a huge signal from my body at some point saying, you've had enough. For me, that happens somewhere between a pound and a pound and a half of pork chop, for example, or ground meat, or like somewhere between a pound and a half. If we're just talking meat, like I get a whoa enough. If I'm doing bacon and eggs, again, I will get that, especially if I scramble my eggs and capture the fat from the bacon. I will definitely get that signal. I 4 slices of bacon and like, let's say 8 to 10 eggs, I probably wouldn't be able to finish those eggs. I get that signal. And people who are not notoriously volume eaters get that signal. But if you are a volume eater, apparently you've learned to ignore it, or you just don't have access to those signals and therefore end up finishing your plate. So it's interesting to me because the man lost weight, had increased energy, and mental clarity, still eating what sounds like quite a bit of food. Was it too much food for him? I don't know. What was his size to start with? We don't know the answer to that. How much weight does he have to lose? We don't know the answer to that. But what we do know, and this is where my mind goes, he was losing weight. When I started keto years and years ago, I was losing weight, even though I was not in ketosis. So I started keto, didn't know what I was doing, and I was eating 75-ish grams of carbs when I finally got my food calculator and my scale and all my stuff and started to eat the way that I had been eating for the 3, 4, actually not even more. I was eating for like 2 or 3 weeks before I got my scale. Yeah. So before I got my scale, yeah, I was eating 2 or 3 weeks. I'd already started losing weight, lost a good amount of weight, and I wasn't doing keto. And it took me a few days, even after getting my scale, probably another week even, maybe a bit more, to get myself dialed into how much food is actually, because I was making the mistake of eating my meal and then calculating it rather than calculating before I ate it. Something that I've been teaching you guys because I lived the repercussions of not making that simple adjustment. What's my point? 75 grams. For 2 weeks, I lost weight. And even when I was on my way down to 20, I lost weight. But even better, I was losing weight moving forward on that, even though my number to keep myself in a ketogenic state, Wellness Warrior, is actually not even 20, which I didn't know because I was losing weight. I only figured it out afterwards that my number is actually 18, right? When my body stops being damaged by these foods at 18, not 20, not 50, like, some of the keto numbers. So I was able to get so far into my journey and doing so well above my 18, lost 30, 40 pounds above my 18. Wellness Warrior, our body will still do amazing even if we're not doing the diet the way that it's described. Even if we're not in that ketogenic state that we think we are in, our body will still do amazingly better. Within a week of doing keto, I had more energy. I had some clarity and mental. I went through withdrawal. So I had pulled enough out to at least figure that out. All of those amazing things did happen for me. And yet, apparently, I wasn't in a ketogenic state yet. So, all that to say, your body can do amazing things if you give it the chance. And if you're a volume eater, there are some things that you really do need to put in place to help yourself to do the best that you possibly can. So I want to give you three core things that I want you to aim for. If you think that you might be suffering from what is, and I'm not even talking about the xanthomas, I'm talking about this ability. And again, the reason I want to talk about this article, twofold: a misunderstanding of what keto is. Keto and carnivore are, sorry, misunderstanding what carnivore is, because keto and carnivore are not the same thing. But second of all, carnivore is not eating fat on repeat and eating only fat. I've seen people, I've made thumbnails where I had a stick of butter that I was biting. Why? Because I'm not afraid of butter. But does that mean that that's what I had for a meal? Never. I've never had butter, only butter for a meal. Why would I do that? Like that's so that just doesn't make sense to me. I want us to understand what we're actually aiming for. We're aiming to eat the right protein source to give my body the right fat and protein to build fuel cleanly itself in a way that helps me to be able to live my life with energy, mental clarity, pain free. Just, I want to enjoy myself. So, it brings me the first rule that I have for you, that if you do this, your life is going to be better. And if you happen to be a volume eater, this is going to help you to solve that. Do not eat for fun. What does that mean? When you feel bored, don't eat. That's something that we were taught in the standard American, standard Canadian diet. Like, we were taught that we could eat for fun. Don't do that. Don't don't celebrate with food. Another way that we eat for fun. Oh, I did so well on my test, and I treat myself with a chocolate bar. That was my thing, right? Back in the day. I do so well. And I feel like we don't understand that we still do that today this way, right? Because we will do really well on our diet and then celebrate. So I lost 30 pounds. I get to eat something, right? Every time I get to a new marker, now I'm at 35 pounds. I get to eat something off plan, perhaps, or I get to eat some kind of extra big rich meal where I allow myself to push past what I normally would eat. Wellness warrior, please don't do that. Eating for fun is a bad idea. It keeps us trapped in this idea that food is not a building block and fuel. We're seeing food as entertainment. And then if as soon as we see food as entertainment, we've opened the door that companies can pull us back in by getting us to eat things that aren't healthy for us. But also, even on this healthy way of eating, it's possible to overeat. Yes, if you eat too much fat, so more fat than your body actually needs, it will need to store it. You can only burn so much. You can only build so much. You can only use so much before your body will say, oh, okay, let's put that in storage. If you eat too much protein, your body will do the same thing. Oh, we don't need this for anything right now. We'll put it in storage. So if my goal is weight loss, if my goal is better health, if my goal is to get myself out there and do my activities and feeling amazing, do activities for fun and let your food be what it's supposed to be. My second thing, eat to satiation. We need to stop eating until we're full. Now, what I've noticed is that in this carnivore world where I'm only eating meat, fish, poultry, eggs, I don't even get to the part where I'm full. When I'm eating, at some point I get this kind of ick thing that happens, and I don't want any more. And when the ick thing happens, the food itself actually stops tasting good. That's a clear signal that your body is saying, hey, you don't need anymore. Now, I also help myself because I learned years ago on the normal diet that it takes a little while for the signal, so for your stomach to communicate to your brain, yeah, we've had enough. If you eat really quickly, Wellness Warrior, which a lot of people do, you'd be surprised. In my world, I'm paying attention, and it's amazing to me how I can be at a table with people eating, and I'm not even halfway done, and they're completed what they've been eating. It's a mistake, Wellness Warrior. The faster you eat, the less chance you have of getting that signal from your stomach, so that your stomach expands as the food is coming in, and that expansion does send a signal up to your brain to say, hey, we've had enough. So that's one of the signals. Then there's the how much fat came in, and that satiation thing that fat gives us. That again, what I've noticed is if I eat zero carbs, that satiation signal is quite strong and quite different than when you eat carbohydrates. It's a very clear, stop it, Violet. Don't put another bite in your mouth. And once I get to that actual point, I can't put another bite in my mouth. It's over. Are you allowing yourself to even interact with that if you're on a carnivore diet? If you're on a keto diet, you're not going to get that same sensation. Again, it took me a while to figure that part out. Here's what's interesting, Wellness Warrior. If you're doing carnivore, but you have sugary sauces on your meat, you don't get the sensation. So even back in the day, when I would eat ribs only as a meal before I did carnivore, I could still eat a whole set of ribs, so a whole rack, that now that I'm carnivore, I cannot get through. At some point, that same length of rack that I absolutely used to devour pre-keto with sugary sauce on it, carnivore can't get through a whole rack. There's something about that satiating fat when there's no sugar around. Now, the third thing is that you need to learn what to be hungry, to actually let your body get hungry. Volume eaters eat because they eat, not because they're hungry. That means that the time might be ruling when you have a meal. That means that scenarios, I'm at a party, I'm at a theater, I'm out for coffee. These events might be ruling when you're eating. My family's eating, so but you're not actually hungry. That was something that surprised me, Wellness Warrior. That so I was a person that in my normal standard American, standard Canadian diet way of eating was hungry all the time. I was hungry every hour and a half to 2 hours. On keto, that went away. Very quickly, I was doing 3 meals a day, no snacks, and very quickly, within like just a minimum amount of weeks, I was 2 meals a day, no snacks. And within 2 months, I was 1 meal a day keto. And I did that for years until I transitioned to carnivore, still 1 meal a day. If I'm hungry, I'll eat a second meal. I mentioned in my return video after the holidays that I was sick over the holidays, and actually I had lunch 2 of those days because I was hungry. And I believe it was because in my recovery portion of my illness, my body needed the extra energy and the extra nutrients, so it needed to build me, right? And it sent me out to get some food. And I had some ham and cheese during those lunches. And I mean a large amount, like a package of ham and a package of cheese. I ate half one day and half the other day. And I stopped eating the first half because I was just like, okay, I can't take another bite. And then I did the same thing the next day. And actually, I think threw away like one little slice of ham at the very end that was still in the container. But yeah, I got through more ham than in the history of being me. If we go back to before I did keto, that would have been probably at the minimum 4 or 5 sandwiches, maybe even six, like with the amount of, and that would have been with bread, right? And tomato and lettuce and all kinds of other things. So very different the way that I do things today. And I want you to learn how to be hungry. And that might mean, Wellness Warrior, that you are putting more and more time between meals. Now, my suggestion is always, because I understand how important fasting periods are, my suggestion is always to put time between your last meal and your first meal. And so, how far back can you push breakfast? But the goal is to not have breakfast until you feel hungry, and then not have lunch until you feel hungry, etc. Supper till you feel hungry. And more importantly, to not snack in between. You need to learn what it feels like to be hungry. Part one. Part two is to understand that the signal for hunger and the signal for thirsty are actually the same. And so, therefore, the other thing that we need to do is verify, well, am I actually hungry for food or is my body asking me for water? This was something that really shocked me when I started to test that, how often my body was actually asking me for water, and that I could drink a little bit of water, a little bit, a lot, depending on how much my body asked me for. But I would drink, like, so it's a glass. So whether I drank a quarter of the glass because I felt like that's how much I wanted, or the full glass, I would then go forward 2, 3 hours, fine, no food ingested. My point is, are you allowing yourself to really understand what hungry is versus a water signal? Because my body has one way of telling me that something needs to come in, versus a cue from the world that it's time to eat, and I like eating, quote unquote, and therefore I end up eating when actually I shouldn't be. These things matter. And I want you to start slow, and I want you to verify these things. And if you do it slowly, what I've noticed is that most people end up with a longer eating window between supper and that first meal of the day. And we're able to condense down lunch and supper into a shorter eating window, which gives our body more time to heal. And ultimately, Wellness Warrior, we do these better diets because we want our body to heal. And so, giving your body that opportunity, giving your body that chance is really what you're looking for. So, let's do that. Let's give our body this positive thing that we can actually do and heal ourselves. Now, I just realized that I forgot to link Rose's video in the description. So I'm going to do that. This video that I did today, I was able to do because of the channel supporters who they helped me put time aside to kind of gather my information. I still had to watch videos from Dr. Barry and Dr. Bikman and kind of grab that clip from Dr. Bikman to be able to share with you guys the information that, so like these channel supporters, patrons, people who directly contribute through the link that I have in the description below, and people who contribute through YouTube. I appreciate you. I thank you. I like you do give me some extra time here and there to do some stuff, and I do appreciate it. I would love to be able to buy some of these articles, but they're quite pricey. But I would love to be able to buy the article, read the article myself, and come back and tell you, do I even agree with the JAMA article and the conclusions that they come to, and why yes, why no, right? So, if you would like to see me do that, consider becoming a patron or a contributor at the link that I have below. I it really does help. I just want to make sure that you guys know that it actually does help.